thank you, Rabbi Rafal, for the invitation, and Rabbi Liberov. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you today. That video, I have two videos, and it looks like I sent you my mistake campaign video. All donations go to the Mitzvah campaign. I was not soliciting anybody, but that was a glimpse. We made that video last year before we bought our first permanent center over here, of things that have happened in the past 7 years since we arrived in Jamaica. But let's go back in history when the Jews arrived in Jamaica. And I'm going to share my screen to, not over here, to right over here. How do we? I could share something. Okay, I have it now. Let's go back. You always are still learning on the Zoom how it works. We're always, it doesn't end. Okay, share here. Now you see my whole screen, what's going on over here. And this is what I wanted to share with you today, right here. Okay, so here we see the Jamaican Jewish history. I have a good friend who is a Jamaican Jew. His name is Ainsley Enriquez, who wrote up this. He is my mentor about the Jewish history in Jamaica. Of course, I have in front of me, I don't know if now you can see it, my screen is small, but there is lots of books about the Jewish history in Jamaica. I'll go back to, when I stop sharing, I'll show you those different books that each of you can read. There is the Portuguese Jews of Jamaica, there is the Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean, there is the Island of One People, and lately there is this beautiful book came out about the Jewish treasures of the Caribbean. So Mr. Enriquez, long time Jewish Jamaican, he put everything together on a very, one paper for me, and I would like to share with you. So the Jews basically are coming from, the Jews that settled in Jamaica at the time of 1655 are coming from the Spanish Inquisition. Many of them ran away. Of course, it was much earlier, but they were descendants, and till they moved to Jamaica, that took some time, but they were all descendants of these Spanish Jews who were running away in that time. Now that the first synagogue that was built was in 1655, and as well over here you can see on the screen, I don't know how to enlarge it, but you see over here, this is a document that was for sale back in Israel of Jews who needed permits to bring in kosher food. That's in Spanish. You see it's from June 13, 1771. So there's a long time Jewish presence in Jamaica. Till today, you have about 21 Jewish cemeteries here in Jamaica. About 14 are accessible. The other ones, unfortunately, were abandoned. No one really took care of them. So there's a very beautiful, rich history. As well, there was a time that the Jewish people did not have full rights to vote in Jamaica, and that took time, about sometime in the 1800s, till the Jews till then, even they came in the 1600s, but they were considered as second-class citizens. That only changed in 1800s. And until to such a transformation in 1880, you can research this, most of the Parliament of Jamaica were all Jews. And Yom Kippur, Parliament of Jamaica was closed because everybody was observing Yom Kippur. And you had the Ashkenazi community, you had the Sephardic community, until there was an earthquake of one of the synagogues collapsed. And till today, you have, it's called the United Congregation, the Sephardic and Ashkenazi united, and they built one synagogue, and that's when everybody, the community got together. That was about 100 years ago. The synagogue still stands today in Kingston. It used to be an Orthodox synagogue until about 1940, and about then it turned into a Reform synagogue today. Now, we came to where did Chabad come into the picture? So I didn't have you gave me enough notice, but unfortunately I didn't have enough time to prepare all the documents to show you. But the earliest encounter of Chabad, and I think Caribbean, and maybe someone knows otherwise, is, from my research, it's 1942, 1943, during the Holocaust, that there was a whole group of Jews who found refuge in Jamaica. It's called the Gibraltar Camp. And today you have descendants of many of their children living all over the United States. Actually, I'm forgetting already, we're being here so long. I think it was about 4 years ago, they had a reunion of the children came together over here. So there was this letter that I found of one of the rabbis from that camp who was thanking the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe for sending Torah books, sending matzah for Passover. So right when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe came to America, he was already taking care of refugees. Can you imagine, even in Jamaica at that time? And there's a beautiful few letters of encounter of the two rabbis. Now, since the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe came to America, he started this organization that when you hear me well, right?
Yes, we hear you well.
That when you the Zoom, you don't hear anybody else. You think you're talking to yourself. And so in 1957 is, we recall, the first rabbis. You can see it in the picture over here. The first Chabad rabbis who visited Jamaica in person, and they're the roving rabbis. So that was part of the America Shlichus program, which was established in 1942 by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, as you all, he sent them all over America as students in their summer. And fortunate am I is one of the rabbis who was sent here in 1957 was my grandfather of blessed memory. That's the one where my mouse is circling, Rabbi Yaakov Raskin, who later in 1960 became the Rebbe's representative in Shliach in Morocco. And on to my right, which probably is your left, is Rabbi Krinsky, who he had many long years, was the Rebbe's secretary for over 40 years. So they were the first Chabad representatives in Jamaica. And when they came over here, they saw, unfortunately, a community there was 200 Jewish families. Today, I would say there's 365 individual Jews, not families. And that's at least one to keep me busy for every day of the year, 365. And, one of the works that Rabbi Krinsky and my grandfather have done over here is, in their short visit, they were here for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they sent, there was no yeshiva here, there was no Jewish school, they sent some boys to the Lubavitcher Yeshiva in New York. And fascinating, I have the report of my grandfather of his visit in Jamaica. And I see the names over there. One of the names is the Seton family. And I said, you know what? I want to track down these people if they remember of my grandfather's visit here. So it was on my bucket list. And normally, this is the best time, right after the holidays. Tishrei is over. Hanukkah is a little far away. It's in the Chabad world, this is a little calm time. We're a little normal. It's like it's 6 weeks without any holidays, right? After that, it's Hanukkah, then you have Purim, you have Tu B'Shvat. Cheshvan is the most quietest month. So I said, Cheshvan's going to come. I'm going to find who this Seton person is. And I said, okay, I'm going to call him on Tuesday. Now, on Monday, I got a call from Panama. Hi, my name is Sali Seton. I'm like, sir, I was going to. Are you a descendant from the Jews? Your father lived in Jamaica. He's like, sure. And I'm celebrating 50 years anniversary, and we're coming down with all of my descendants to my birthplace. And we would like Rabbi for you to kosher the villa. We're renting a nice house where everybody can fit. Can fit 20 people with a pool and a chef and all that stuff. Can you help us? I said, I'm looking for you for the past 2 years, and it was on my this list to go find your number somehow. And when he came later on to Jamaica, he showed me the documents. It was fascinating, closing a circle of, he was sent to yeshiva back onto the first visit of the Chabad rabbis in 1957. And today, all his family is all keeping kosher, Shabbos, and following the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. So that is, something that happened in the 60 years. I'm just going to click over here, share with you a story. How did we land in Jamaica? How does it work? So this is an article from Chabad.org of when we moved to Jamaica in, I think Nachum Posner is also from Chicago, right? He was the one who wrote this article. So this was September 2014. So the story goes as follows. Here you have about my grandfather. You have some pictures. You can see this when we came down to Jamaica. And I'm holding the Torah. We put the Torah in a duffel bag that you come through. And this is how we started off the Chabad Center with 4 suitcases, most of it kosher food, a little clothes, and some books. So it was March 2014, and my wife and myself, we were looking where to open the next Chabad, where to open a Chabad Center. And we were looking for a new country. Chabad, I think that year was in 86 countries. We said, let's, there's more countries that could use another Chabad house. I was privileged in 2012 to be sent as a bacher, a student, to the ABC Islands in the Caribbean, which is called Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. So that was my first encounter with the Caribbean. I reached out to the head office in New York, as everything goes through the head office over there. What islands are available in the Caribbean? We're looking to move out. He's like, why don't you speak to the first rabbi who came to the Caribbean, Rabbi Zarchi? He's the head shliach to the Caribbean, and speak to him. I happened to meet him at a family simcha in Crown Heights. And we're talking. He's like, okay, I'll get back to you. He calls me about a few weeks later, and he says, why don't you check out Jamaica? I'm like, Jamaica? Is that in the Caribbean? I thought that's in Africa. What do I know? They didn't, in the Talmud, we studied in yeshiva. It didn't teach us the geography. It taught us about Babylon, taught us about Jerusalem, Israel, maybe France, but not furthermore. I don't think it has any reference in the Talmud to the Caribbean, besides Iye Hayom, the islands, the far islands. So we look at it. Okay, wow, 4 hours away from New York, not bad. So we reached out to the previous Chabad roving rabbis, as there was Chabad roving rabbis coming here for over 50 years. They had a list of the Jews here in Jamaica, and we're going to start making calls, see if people are interested in us, if there's any hope or future over here. And we got very positive feedback from the few calls that I made. God knew exactly which people to answer the phone and that should say good things to convince us to move down here. And we came to make, the next step was to make a visit. We came here in the beginning of March, and there was only one Jew in Jamaica then who kept kosher. His picture's not on here, but his brother's picture's on here, right here. His name was Albert Dowek. I give a call when I arrived to meet him, and his helper answers the phone, and he goes, And he says, tell me, you're in Jamaica right now? I said, yes, we just arrived. So what happened? Raymond had a mini stroke. I said, no way. Raymond had, where is he staying? Which hospital? They told me the hospital. I go with my wife to the hospital over there. And we knock on the door. And this young lady opens the door. She looks at me, and I look at her, and she gives a shout. Khani's brother? What are you doing here in Jamaica? I'm like, wait a second, you're Michael's wife, right? She's like, yes. Now, where I met her and her husband back in 2011 in Monte Carlo. Okay, so we have here Monte Carlo and Jamaica, Monaco. This is in the small country where you don't pay taxes next to France. And my sister is the Chabad shlucha there, and my brother-in-law, Chabad Rabbi Chali and Tanchamat. And since I was studying in 2011, I was an elderly student in Manchester. I was in Europe. I would visit them. I visited them maybe 5 times that year. And there was many times my brother-in-law brought me down to take over the synagogue. He had family simchas. And who did I meet by the table? Debbie and Michael. Because where are they from? Manchester. So I'm studying in Manchester. We had a very exchanged nice ideas and thoughts, and it was all nice. And since then, we didn't stay in touch. I continued my life, they continued their life. Now, almost 4 years later, where do we meet? In Jamaica. I said, and Raymond, who's this Raymond? Is there her uncle? Unfortunately, Raymond never got married, so he didn't have any children. So now he had a stroke. He wasn't feeling well. They came to be by his bedside. Of course, we put on tefillin with Raymond. And it was, even after his stroke, the only words he was able to say was Shema. We gave him kosher food, and we stayed in touch. That year, I was privileged. There was 6 young married couples who studied at the gravesite of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I was fortunate to be one of them. And since I came back from my visits, I wasn't sure. It was a very successful visit. We were here for a week. I wasn't sure if I'm going to come back, if I'm coming, if we're going to move down here. Where it's a third world country, you still see dogs on the street, rolling around, and chickens, and goats, and donkeys. There's, of course, these beautiful places and beautiful resorts, which we did not know when we came in 2014. We saw them, but we never really paid too much attention to them. We were more paying attention to the local community that was there. And we were contemplating, are we going to move back to Jamaica or not? This is a decision for our life. What are we going to do? So as a chassid of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, everything we do, we ask a blessing from the Rebbe. So we decided, it was 3 weeks later, it was a Sunday, and I turned to my wife and said, why don't you come with me to the oil, and we're going to write our dilemmas and pray that we have a clear sign if Jamaica is our place or not. We went to the Rebbe's resting place in Queens, and we davened. And that same day, I get an email from Michael. Raymond has unfortunately passed away. And it would be very nice, that whole story that happened to us. We met her back then and everything, and you're opening Chabad in Jamaica. And that was Raymond's dream. Raymond was always, he used to bring from time to time Chabad rabbis on a Purim and help him with kosher food. Every Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, he would go to Chabad in Miami. Says, it would be nice if you could, we're going to fly you down to his funeral. We're bringing him from Jamaica to Israel. That Sunday that I come out, I'm asking him blessing. I discuss it with my wife. We decide, okay, we're going to take the flight. I'm going to take the flight to Israel. On Wednesday, I find myself in Israel for maybe 17 hours, 12 hours on the flight there, 12 hours flight there. But yeah, the time I was in Israel was just that amount. Of course, you went to holy sites to pray, and I come to the funeral. The family was already calling me then. This is the rabbi in Jamaica. I said, hey, I don't even know if I'm coming back here. But, they're telling everybody. After the funeral, Debbie and Michael tell me, why did you come with us in our bus? They had a bus for the whole family going back to the hotel. And we were breaking, chatting in the bus about Raymond's life and his wish to have Chabad and everything. As we're saying goodbye, now back to here, Albert, Raymond's brother, this is Albert, we're putting on tefillin over there. That's how I look then. It's nice and thin. In 2014, that's Albert. And Albert tells me, he thanks me for coming and everything. He says, what's going to be? Are you going to open up Chabad in Jamaica? I said, I don't know. He tells me, listen, if you're going to open Chabad in Jamaica, we're giving you our brother's house to start off in, and we will be your first supporters. I almost fainted. On Sunday, I prayed to God in the presence by the Rebbe's resting place for a clear sign. On Wednesday night, we have a house to start off with and our first supporters. And we're very grateful and thankful for God's blessings. And that is a story how Chabad ended up in Jamaica. Now, fast forward, we'll click on this link. This is from October 2020. That's today. This is back to last year in 2019. We were very fortunate that the Jamaica Governor General declared the Lubavitch Rebbe's birthday as Education and Sharing Day for all Jamaicans. So here we had a big event of our 5th anniversary over there. We had Jews, non-Jews there. We had the representative of Eva Schloss, stepsister of Anna Frank. And over there, this is the declaration. After Eva spoke, we're able to declare of this great thing that was by the Governor General. Here's a picture of the Governor General. Now, how it works in Jamaica is you have the Prime Minister of Jamaica, but since it became independent in 1962, it still has a connection to England. So on top of the Prime Minister is the Governor General who would proclaim such things. So that is short of from the past to the present. I don't know where we're holding in time, it's already 3 o'clock, so I think we'll go to questions and answers. But there is beautiful things I prepared over here, but I don't think we'll have time of it. You have about the Jewish pirates in Jamaica. Now, I'll end up with one piracy thing. This is famous, and you can read it over online, etc. That, I was always wondering. They say that the pirates were religious Jews. They wore kippah, they had beards, they wore tzitzis, they kept kosher, put on tefillin. So how can it be that a religious Jew was a pirate? So one of the answers I saw, if anybody else has any other answers, said they would only steal from the Spanish boats to take revenge of what was taken from them back in Spain. So that is also, you could see on many of the gravestones still today in Jamaica, gravestones from now close to 400 years ago, with the pirate symbols. The Jews were pirates, yet rabbis were pirates. Another thing to note of, you can see this as well, the first synagogue in New York, who was the rabbi, was a rabbi who was born in Montego Bay, and that's where we have our Chabad house today, is in Montego Bay. It was Rabbi Henry Brewer Mendes was born in Montego Bay. The last synagogue in Montego Bay stood here in 1914, which fell down in an earthquake. So, sure, now I'm ready for questions. Grill me. I hope you enjoyed this information.
Rabbi, we have plenty more time. If you have time and you have more to elaborate upon, usually we go till about 3:30. So if you have more to elaborate upon and you have time, otherwise we can go to questions, but we have time. Maybe you could tell us about the hotspot. How did that come about?
Okay, so in years are starting to fly. Once you're here for a while. So this was 2017. Since we moved here, so we first started off in Raymond's house in Kingston for 6 weeks. And then we realized our place to settle would be Montego Bay, because there was nothing Judaism there, and there's 200,000 Jewish tourists who come to Jamaica. Anybody have been here in Jamaica?
Everyone's on mute, so.
Okay, we'll hear later.
Yeah.
So we realized that our best place to set up the Chabad Center would be in Montego Bay, of course, so we rented a house over here. And every time we would go for holidays in Kingston, we would do it in Raymond's house. So we had 2 Chabad centers, one Chabad rabbi who was traveling a time of 3 hours between 2 cities for the couple Jews that are here. Almost the same amount we have on Zoom today. So we were running everything out of our house, and we knew that there's a lot of visitors coming to Jamaica that we're not reaching. So we were looking for a long time for a place on the center of town that we could have our Chabad Center. And we finally found a place after a long time, and it was a little ice cream hut place, it's not so big, not too small. You could sit comfortably there, 15 people. And we decided what the best way to attract people there, especially visitors, is not just having a Chabad Center, but also start a little restaurant. And the easiest way what type of restaurant to run without having another rabbi in Ireland would be vegetarian, because you don't need a full-time supervising. I could come in the morning, turn on the fire, look at the cameras throughout the day, and all the vegetable options are available here in Jamaica. The way we bring in chicken and meat is we still import it from Miami or New York, which we have to get permits. It's a whole nice schlep, which I pray and hope that this year we're going to be able to bring down a shochet. Actually, right after the Zoom, I'm going to call a manager of one of the slaughtering chicken companies over here. Hopefully he will let us borrow his place for a day and slaughter lots of chicken that will last us for 6 months. So we don't have to schlep in, because with Baruch Hashem, we have more families and locals starting to keep kosher, besides the big population of visitors who keep kosher and want to have a kosher vacation. So we decided to open a kosher hotspot, which we have there falafel, and it's our Jewish Welcome Center. We had over there over the past, now it's 3 years, a lot of bar mitzvahs, people who never brought phone for the first time, although we found more Jews who live here because of that spot. And it's the real hot spot on the main street of Montego Bay.
It looks beautiful. It looks like a real exciting place to be.
Yes, it's right across the ocean. You can enjoy a nice kosher lunch or dinner.
Do you get a lot of non-Jews coming there too to see what?
Yes, since it's a restaurant, you have a lot of non-Jews, and the feedback we got from them was amazing. They would come by, and one of the actually things we do is as well, we try to do an annual back-to-school event for our local neighbors over here, for the most unfortunate children who don't have, can't get school supplies, etc. So part of Tikkun Olam.
What about your own children? Are they old enough to start thinking about school?
Yes, so we started a school right here in this building that I'm in another room. I wish I would be able to show you the pictures. We just decorated the room. My oldest is 5 years old, and my youngest is 3 years old. So we homeschool them. For now, we're hoping that other Jewish children, other Jewish family will join us. And we hired a local teacher that's with them most of the day. It's one of the hardest challenges of being in these remote places is you don't have that Jewish school. Everything you have to make homemade. But this should actually be for the refuah shalema of Dr. Lord Jonathan Sachs. He needs a speedy recovery. The Rebbe once told him in the 60s, he was a student at Cambridge University. And this is something that we live with and gives us a lot of strength, this story. And he asked all his questions to the Rebbe answered it patiently. And then the Rebbe asks him, Jonathan, what are you doing for the Jewish people in Cambridge University? And he was a little taken back by the question. He's here asking the questions. Here the Rebbe, and he started ecking and what he answered, and he said, "Well, Rabbi, the situation that I find myself in," the Rebbe politely stopped him there and said, "Jonathan, a Jew never finds himself in a situation. Make a situation." So this is something very powerful. I think all of us, we could to continuously live with, especially in this time that we are in. We have to make the situation, and especially when we don't have everything easy here. Yeah, that's how it is. We don't have the school, you got to create it. You don't have the bagel, go make it. So we're hoping one of the goals for this year is Rat Hashem will be able to have a mikvah in Jamaica, and maybe soon we merit.
Amazing. So let's throw the floor open so that people can ask questions.
Sure.
For those who are on the video Zoom, you should have an unmute button that you can press. I am not able to unmute everybody. Zoom stopped allowing that for the host. For those who are on the phone, the way to unmute yourself is pressing star and then 6. So anyone can just jump in and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Came in a little late, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
hear you.
I tuned in a little late, and I wanted to know, are there any Jewish residents in Jamaica, in your community?
Yes, there's about 365 locals.
I see. Uh-huh.
And is that in Montego Bay or in Kingston or both?
Island-wide. There's Jews that I know in 7 cities. Over Sukkot, we had 4 days of Chalamot. Every day we took a sukkah on a truck, and we couldn't reach every Jew in every city, but at least we got to close lots of them that they were able to do the blessing on the sukkah that we love.
I noticed on your website that, by the way, I can announce that your website is jewishjamaica.com. That, and it's a very good website too, that you have opportunities for people to come for a Yom Tov, like for Pesach, and to have, kosher food. And do you get a lot of that people come for Pesach or other Yom Tovim?
Yes, especially lately in 2018, we had here 800 Jews from all over the world. There was a fellow who rented out a whole hotel and made a Passover program. I was fortunate to give the kosher certification, and my wife ran the camp in the program, and since then we started that any time of the year, not just the Passover or Sukkot, people can rent houses near us and join us to celebrate the holiday. And if you give us enough notice, we'll provide you with all your kosher amenities, what you need. We'll import it into the island for you. And someone who wants to take it to the next step, wants a kosher chef as well, he can get that too.
So you had 800 people for one Pesach, for one
Pesach, yes.
That's a massive operation.
That video you saw with Avram Fried singing at that was one of that was at the end of the program. That was one of the days of Cholamot. He came to sing for a concert.
Where do most of those people come from?
They came from Israel, England, New York. I think we had some people from Chicago as well, New Jersey, Canada, Montreal, Toronto, literally all over the world. It's saying now on such a larger scale, so we're not going to have it for a while, but today COVID safe is you can rent a nice house, a villa, and you can have a beautiful kosher vacation if someone's looking for that.
Okay, does anyone else have some questions? We're looking for questions.
Yes. How far is the drive from one side of the island to the next? And is there like a grocery store there where you can shop, or you have to import everything?
So the first answer is it's about 6 hours from one side of the island to the other side of the island. It's probably the size of Israel, the size of New Jersey. It's a gorgeous island. Thank God in the past 6 years, new highways and new roads popped up. But when we moved in 2014, most roads weren't touched for about 30 years. Instead of keep getting flat tires by going into the hills. And now, thank God, in the supermarkets, you have lots of imported products. It's expensive. For a bag of chips, it'll cost you probably $4 when in Chicago it costs you $1. But we have a lot of OU, OK, Chafke stuff that we can find over here. The only thing we import is chicken and meat. And sometimes, for my children, I import as well dairy products, Challah Yisrael.
Is there any anti-Semitism that you encounter?
Very, very, to say not would be hard to say in today's age. It's one of the places actually, since the beginning I came or wherever I went, people would say, oh, you're Jewish, wow, chosen people, please give me a blessing. But in the rise of anti-Semitism in the past 2 years, there's been a very little incident, once or twice. So that's, I wouldn't rule it out, but thank God they're very respectful to us and very, very nice neighbors. We're very, very fortunate.
The weather is there nice, obviously, the entire year.
What's winter? You know that in Chicago? I think I'm actually coming from Montreal, so I remember these ski masks. Today we have these masks. And we used to wear the ski masks to go to shul, and the Russian hats.
It remains the same temperature the entire year?
Pretty much. The lowest it came was 69 degrees on a winter night in January over here. That was the coldest.
Wow.
That's when I was able to put my air conditioning on 24 or 28 degrees. Normally it's on 16.
Anyone else with a question?
Yeah, I have one. Thanks so much for this. I was in Negril like 20 years ago, and I noticed Jewish stars like on posts and artwork and things. Were those Jewish stars like back from way back when, or was it just a symbol that they took for artistic? Do you know?
Okay, so there's a Rastafarian community, and they claim they came from Queen Sheba. Queen Sheba was very close to King Solomon, and a lot of their songs have returning to Zion, and their flag, a lot of part of their culture is King David and Zion and King Solomon. So they're very into the Star of David, and you'll see it actually all over the island, and it's actually a beautiful thing to see. As well, they have the symbol of the lions, like what a lot of people have on their tallis bags, of all these things that come from Judaism.
Your children have Jewish friends?
Not many, but thank God, yes, they have. And they're praying for more. Anybody want to move down?
Uh-huh.
Any kosher restaurants?
So yes, we have one of the Chabad. We have a kosher restaurant, the Chabad house. And as well, we have, if let's say you're just coming, a couple or just yourself, you could order kosher hot meals. It's one of the services we offer at Chabad. Our slogan is "You're one stop for everything Jewish." So from circumcision till after 180, we take care of all your needs.
Any bakeries?
And in my kitchen. Can you imagine life without this stuff? Listen, we had a Brit Milah. It was not, yeah, 2 years ago, January, a year and a half ago. And we brought in the Moel from Miami. Miami is about an hour and a half flight. And it was very exciting to have the first circumcision in Montego Bay, celebration that probably wasn't here for over 100 years. In Kingston, there has been, but in this part of the island was literally everything is fresh, new to new, groundbreaking.
So what about getting a minyan throughout the year? Is there a possibility, or is that not yet?
I was going to ask you, what's a minyan?
Well,
yes, we're very fortunate. This year we had, for the first time we're here, it's the first time we had a minyan for Sukkot and Simchas Torah. It's very hard to get a minyan because the Jewish population lives far from each other. So on a regular Shabbat, we don't get a minyan with just the help of our locals. That will only happen in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Many of them will travel, far and from far to be with us for the high holidays and for Passover. But on a regular Shabbat, it's thanks to visitors and our few locals who come to the minyan. And as time grew, we now have, I would say, in December, pretty much a minyan almost very often. January, almost the whole month. This past year, 2020, right before the pandemic, we had we had in 2 cities daily services for almost 3 weeks. One at Chabad and one was at a big group. 500 Jews were staying at a hotel in Coach Rios. So we provided them with a Torah and that they could do the daily services. But yes, thank God. We get minyan from time to time.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you know the Wharf family? WHARF. They're a prominent family in Jamaica.
I don't.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you know them.
You have to connect me, please.
Yeah, okay.
well, speaking of that, Rabbi Raskin, maybe how can people get in touch with you? Can you give us your email address?
Sure. You can reach me at rabbi@chabadofjamaica.com. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. You want to come visit in Jamaica? Just remind me we met on the Zoom, and or even up, and we're happy to take care of you.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much on behalf of all of us. Rabbi Raskin, it's been fascinating to learn about the history of Jewish Jamaica and all about what you're doing there now, which is tremendous for the people who are there and the people who come to visit there. And it's a real bracha to have you there. So on behalf of all those who benefit, thank you so much. And thank you for being with us today.
With pleasure. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and a warm winter in Chicago.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless
Thank
all.
you. Very interesting.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time.
With pleasure.
Abba.
Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.